Landlord makes my life hell and refuses to pay me a deposit, so I freeze his bank account. Back in 2018, I had a temporary internship in California at an undisclosed large tech company, so I took a recommendation from a friend about a room for rent. It would be living with 5 other people, but otherwise it looked fantastic with spacious common areas, multiple huge TVs, full amenities, community rec center with a pool, short drive times to multiple places of interest, and all for $650 a month. Utilities included. I contacted the landlord, whom I will refer to as Crappy Landlord from here on out. He seemed fine on the phone at the time, so I sent him my security deposit to move in a month later. When it came time to move in, I discovered a few caveats that came with this low rent price. The common areas were all dusty, none of the 3 large TVs worked properly, and if we wanted to access the rec center and pool, we'd need to pay the $80 a month membership fee. And all of the short drive time estimates were exaggerated unless you were speeding at twice the speed limit. Whatever, it's not the end of the world, especially at the relatively low prices. I'll survive. But then it got worse in the coming months. Crappy Landlord decided to charge us an extra $20 a month for paper towels and public cleaning supplies. Crappy Landlord only checked the community mailbox once a week when he was in town, and refused to trust anybody with the mailbox key. As it starts to roll into the summer, in June, Crappy Landlord decided that AC costs were too much and we were using it too much, so he removed the thermostat from the wall. Okay? One day, some of us tenants confronted him when he was at the house, since Crappy Landlord also slept at the house about 1 day a week, and I'll never forget his words as he rushed out. "It's legal for me to do it and I don't care since I don't have to live here." Well, sir, F you. I'm tilted as frick at this guy's obvious money grab from 6 tenants. Well, it turns out he's right. He legally doesn't need to provide air conditioning, so the next day, I purchase a high BTU, freestanding portable air conditioner that exhausts out the window. Holy crap, this thing was luxury. Of course, I pump my room to 65 degrees Fahrenheit, the lowest setting. We have a couple of other minor disagreements that wind up with Crappy Landlord texting me that it's fine if I wanted to break my lease and move out early. Perfect. When Crappy Landlord finally gets a whiff of my AC setup, he comes to my room to complain about my AC unit. I reply curtly, "It's legal for me to do it and I don't care since I don't have to pay for electricity." He leaves later and sends me a text. "If you choose to run the AC in your room at 50 degrees because your computer generates so much heat, then that's your choice. But you'll need to pay an additional $100 per month for the additional electricity you've been spending. And that's going to be from the time you installed it in the room without my permission. Thank you much." Legally, I'm under no obligation to do this. Yeah, alright, unbeknownst to Crappy Landlord, I'm taking his move-out offers seriously, and this whole time I've been rallying the troops. All the tenants have been upset about everyone's living situation, so with some minor encouragement, I managed to convince 2 of the other 6 tenants to move out at the same time as me. They were on a month-to-month arrangement. I finally submit all of our notices of intent to vacate at the same time, barely a week after my previous conversation with Crappy Landlord. He's angry. He was just trying to get me out of the house, but now he has 3 rooms to fill instead of 1. I ask about my legally mandated pre-move-out inspection. In no uncertain terms, he told me to go F myself. He said he's too busy to perform an inspection. Huh, well that's illegal, but okay. Time comes to move out. I found another room for rent, much closer to the office for only $100 a month more. We all move out and I text Crappy Landlord about my security deposit. No response. I text again. No response. Okay, I see where this is going. I spend days and days reading the law, compiling evidence and screenshots, listing the laws that were broken. The smoking gun was the statute that requires a pre-move-out inspection and a list of things to fix, and itemized list of deductions within 21 days, or else Crappy Landlord loses the right to withhold any of my deposit. In addition, he'd be subject to treble damages if he's found to be acting in bad faith. I text him again and again. I give him plenty of leniency, and I even cite the laws so I can prove in court that I'm acting in good faith, and that Crappy Landlord intentionally ignored the laws that I made him aware about. Crappy Landlord probably thinks I'm a young pushover college student who won't follow through with legal threats. Well, sir, we're going to court because I'm petty as frick when it comes to people trying to mess me over. I file in small claims for $650 plus treble damages plus court costs. Crappy landlord files a counterclaim of $2,000 for damages to the property, claiming I caused flooding, and that I broke the microwave. Okay, buddy. In response, I gather testimonies from 3 of the other tenants and I build my case into a 40-page packet of evidence, complete with page numbers, a table of contents, and descriptions for every screenshot and photo. I make 3 copies of everything and submit it to the court and the defendant, Crappy Landlord. The court date is set for November and I leave the state just before Christmas, so just in time to appear in person since my internship ends and I fly home in December. He starts filing requests to postpone the trial. He cites a doctor's appointment and the motion is granted. Court date is rescheduled for a month later, in December but still before I fly home. New court date approaches and he files another request to postpone, citing another doctor's appointment. Somehow that motion is granted as well and we're rescheduled yet again to January. Darn. January rolls around and surprise, surprise, guess who's got another doctor's appointment conveniently on the same exact day of the trial? Denied. The court finally got wind of his bullcrap and denied the motion because he can't prove he scheduled the doctor's appointment prior to the court date being moved. Well damn, I'm not in California anymore, I'm across the country on the East Coast. Crappy landlord thinks if I'm no longer in the state, he'll automatically win since I'm not willing to fly back to California. Well, unbeknownst to Crappy landlord, California courts offer an option to appear by telephone. Haha. Court day comes and I get the call. I'm sworn in and then connected to the court. I'm given time to present my case. Unfortunately, I didn't prepare a script, so I kinda summarized the events and explain why I deserve money. Then Crappy Landlord gets time to defend himself and explain his counterclaim. He doesn't prepare anything either, and he ends up rambling about random crap that doesn't help his case at all. For example, he spends a lot of time explaining how another one of the tenants was crappy, and so his behavior was justified. He doesn't even have a sliver of evidence for his counterclaim when the judge asks for it. The judge asks a few more questions and announces that he'll review the evidence and we'll get the decision in the mail. A couple of weeks later, I get the judgment saying I'm owed $650. Crappy landlord gets nothing. Well damn. No treble damages for me. However, it's just my luck the crappy landlord is a piece of crap that won't accept defeat. He files an appeal for who knows what. It's granted. The redo trial is scheduled for May. This time I'm 10 times more prepared. Once again, I'm sworn in, and then they connect me to the courtroom speaker. This time I have a hashed-out script that I read, making sure to emphasize how often I informed Crappy Landlord of the law, and how often Crappy Landlord knowingly broke the law, and how I offered so much leniency and so many opportunities to do the right thing. Once again, Crappy Landlord doesn't prepare anything, but instead rambles on so much that even the judge tells him to get back on track multiple times. Crappy Landlord claims I caused water damage and he had to replace all the carpets. The judge asks for an invoice or receipt, and he has none. Crappy Landlord claims I broke the microwave, so the judge reads him the 3 witness statements that all state I didn't break the microwave. Crappy Landlord says they're all lying. He still has no evidence whatsoever. At this point, the judge clearly sounds done with his crap and says we'll get his decision in the mail, and the call ends. A couple of weeks later, I get the judgment, and I'm owed $1,800 and the crappy landlord still gets nothing. Well damn, would you look at that? His appeal did not quite work out for him. He goes from owing $650 to owing me $1,800. Being the moron that he is, he files for a mistrial, claiming I was not sworn in and that I lied in my testimony. Denied. Outside of court, Crappy Landlord offers a payment plan of $20 a month, which will take 7.5 years to pay back, or otherwise he refuses to pay up. Okay, I see how collecting my money is going to be now. I figure out he banks at Bank of America by looking at the checks I gave him for rent, and seeing where they got cashed. I file for a writ of execution that will allow me to perform a bank levy. It's granted, so I prepare a packet for the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department to go to Bank of America and take his money. The LACSD serves him with papers and orders Bank of America to freeze his account. After his allotted time of 30 days to contest the seizure, the LACSD seizes his money plus 10% APY interest plus sheriff fees. I finally get the glorious check in the mail 20 months after moving out. I immediately deposited the money into my bank account via mobile check depositing. I'll probably frame the check. The total was $1,893.91. In short, landlord makes living conditions crappy, so he offers me an opportunity to move out. I convince 2 others to move out as well. He ghosts me when I ask for my deposit, so I take him to court. I win $650, so he appeals the court's decision. In the appeal, my award is tripled to $1,800. He refuses to pay up, so I get the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department to go to his bank, freeze his account, and seize his money. Some notes here. As a note, small claims cases are cheap to file. You have to pay about $50 in most states, and it'll rarely be as high as $100. Plus, the loser has to pay you back when you win. And some final tips for situations like this. Find small claims guides. There's a plethora of helpful information out there because everybody wants you to win. Even the court wants you to win. At least in California, they offer a free in-person small claims advisory clinic, where employees advise you and walk you through the whole process. Make sure you know the process and what to expect. Document everything. Have conversations through text or email if possible for easy screenshots. Photograph everything, even if you don't think it's important because the landlord might just claim you damaged it. Do your research on the law. Know what is legal and illegal, and know the penalties for violations. Compile evidence against your landlord and cite the laws that they're breaking. The easier you make it for the judge to see that you're right, the more likely they'll side with you. Get supporting witness statements. It changes the case from he said, she said, where the landlord is calling you a liar, to a 4v1 where the landlord has to call everybody a liar. Just don't commit hearsay. Have them appear in person or have them sign and submit a declaration. Follow procedures to the T. The last thing you want is for your evidence to be thrown out because you didn't send a copy to the defendant at least 10 days before the court date. Come to court prepared and remember the 7 Ps. Proper planning and preparation prevent poor performance. Judges like people who are on top of their crap. If you come to court unprepared, thinking that you can just talk your way to a win, it will be dead obvious. Don't expect the process to be quick. It'll take a while for your landlord to get their comeuppance, but it will be worth it. At the end of the day, the court wants you to win, it'll just take a while. So, am I the jerk for getting triple my deposit? Definitely not the jerk in this scenario. You literally gave the guy every out he possibly could have needed, and he lied and behaved like a complete jerk at every turn. It's legal for me to do it, and I don't care since I don't have to live here. God, talk about admitting that you're the villain here. You getting that much from him seems like a good penance for his behavior, while you and the others were living there. If he had to pay that much out to the others as well, then it's an amount of money that is making the narrator cackle in evil pleasure. Even if they didn't get paid, I think the most ringing endorsement of his crappiness was how easy it was to convince 2 other working adults to up and move their lives spontaneously in the middle of whatever else they had going on at the time. And the fact that 3 of them were willing to write in to make sure he lost money. You make a good point that I haven't considered. Most of the officials involved want to see the little guy win, if it's a clear case of the landlord just being evil and an exploitative monster. It's just up to us to make the process as clear as possible and help ourselves to win. And as we've said before here, take pictures and keep evidence, folks. You never know when you're going to need it with a slime bag like this. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, linked below. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Teacher denies bathroom privilege. Student asserts his dominance. Context: this happened in the early 90s, and at the time the teacher had been teaching for 30+ years. It was a rural area, so many of my friends' parents had also suffered through at least 1 year of primary school with this awful woman. I've seen a grown woman cry recounting memories of her experiences. This lady really was that bad. My 2nd grade teacher took pride in being a mean old bunt to her students. Wielding control over our tiny little bladders was something that gave her a particular satisfaction. One day, during cursive lessons, this kid named Joseph asked to use the bathroom. She told him he should have used the bathroom during morning recess and would have to wait until lunch. A little while later, he started squirming in his seat and again asked to use the bathroom, this time with more urgency. At this point, our teacher starts berating the kid by telling him he's a little baby for not holding his bladder like a big boy and suggesting he should wear diapers. Joseph gets tired of her crap, stands up from his seat, stares her directly in the eyes, and proceeds to unleash the most epic man-sized pee he could muster. As fate would have it, he was wearing those mesh material basketball shorts, so the pee just flowed unobstructed down his legs and pooled on the carpet beneath him. A wave of giggling quickly spread through the classroom, which was basically the second-grade equivalent of a slow clap. Our teacher just stood there dumbfounded for a moment before grabbing Joseph by the arm and dragging him off to the principal's office. As they exited the room, Joseph glanced over his shoulder with a big grin on his face. A legend was born that day, and we all enjoyed our newfound bathroom privileges for the remainder of the school year. The teacher retired the following year. There's something about the act of releasing the burden of one's dignity while making eye contact like that. You did this to me, authority figure. This mess that I'm making is your fault. You had plenty of warning, and now you get to deal with this incredible puddle beneath me. My suffering is finite, and my defiance will be recorded through history alongside your failure. What a magnificent little effer Joseph was. He was going to whittle himself in his chair anyway, so he decided to do it in a way that gave himself ownership of the flow of events, if you'll pardon the pun. I wonder if the teacher's retirement was really connected to this stream of happenings, pun intended again, or if this was just the beginning of the slow decline of her fragile, small amounts of power that she exercised on infants. Am I the jerk for returning the shoes I got for my husband after he accused me of stealing from him? My husband is the breadwinner of the family. I stay home with the kids who are preschool age. He pays for the mortgage, bills, household needs, food, kids' needs, among other things. He has set a monthly budget for each category and handles getting everything done. Recently, he's become overwhelmed and told me to handle grocery shopping, but before he let me, he asked to write a list of all the stuff we need so he could calculate the total, and also so he'd have an idea of how much I'll be spending when I take his credit card. I didn't have an issue with that because this way we'd watch our spending habits. However, he said I'm never allowed to get something that isn't on the list unless I'm paying for it some other way. On Friday, I was doing some grocery shopping, as usual, and saw that the store had some nice shoes on sale. The price was insanely low for this brand, so I decided to grab a pair for my husband, thinking he'd be happy with them, since he needed new sneakers anyway. I bought them, and when I showed them to him, he flipped out on me, saying I made a huge mistake by buying something that wasn't on the list. I agreed with him, but I thought that since the shoes were for him, then it would be different. He said I screwed up and shouldn't have bought these sneakers without even telling him. But in my defense, I said the price was so low, so it's not like I spent $100 on the shoes. And also, I saw this as a great deal, and wanted him to have those nice sneakers. He plainly said that what I did is considered stealing since he never consented to have those sneakers purchased, and said that I'm being irresponsible with money, and that's why I no longer have an income and my spending habits need a grib. I felt hurt by what he said. We argued about it for hours and he avoided speaking to me the rest of the day. The next day I went and returned the sneakers and took the money back. He got home in the evening and lost it when he found out that I'd returned them. He said he couldn't believe how petty and childish I was to actually do this. I explained I was just correcting my mistake. He then tried to contact the store and was told the sneakers were already sold. He got even angrier at me, but I told him that he accused me of stealing from him when I was just trying to do a nice gesture for him. He yelled that I had a lot of nerve calling what I did a nice gesture while using his money to do it. I told him he had no right to yell at me after I corrected my mistake and gave back the money he accused me of stealing. He threw a fit and then went out with his friends and came home late at night, still not talking to me. Did I mess up? Maybe I shouldn't have purchased them without knowing they weren't on the list, but I just wanted him to have those sneakers and thought I was doing a nice gesture. Am I really a thief? Jesus Christ, I don't even know what it is this guy wants. Screaming at you for getting him a present, and then screaming at you again when you took it back. Everything outside his control seems to annoy him. Oh, that's what it's about, isn't it? Control. Whether or not he'd admit it, this feels like everything that didn't have a stamp of approval from him was a personal grievance. This is emotional and financial bullying, and I'm willing to bet that even if you gained your own means to buy it on your own terms, it was probably going to annoy him in another way. Him aside, spouses should have their own credit cards for emergencies and reasonable purchases without pre-planning. That's normal, no matter what the finances of the household in question are. So yeah, this guy's behavior is not normal, and if this sounds familiar, you should be stepping back to ask yourself whether this kind of arrangement is really okay. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. Put the playlist on in the background to finish listening to all the stories. Or if you want to check out some great music, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, give Am I the Genius a shot. Everything linked in the description.